Hello, I'm James Jones. And longtime listeners of Radio Free Nintendo know if you're hearing my voice before you hear the sonorous tones of Men of Leisure, something bad must have happened to the RFN recording. Honestly, you don't even have to be that long time of a listener to know that. And I'm here to report that something bad happened to the recording of the RFN episode 846. I'm not going to ascribe blame because that doesn't help anyone. It happens. We do the show a lot. Mistakes happen. There are audio issues, and sometimes somebody's audio gets messed up. So it's not really useful to blame anybody, but in the interest of full disclosure, John Lindemann made my audio record on the wrong microphone. So I'm not blaming John, but he is absolutely responsible for my audio being on the wrong microphone. So again, this isn't blame. This is just me stating the facts. So if you understand what that means, it means that my audio is going to be echoey and tinny throughout the duration of the episode. Is that an impact? Well, it happens to be the first time we get to talk about Super Mario Bros. Wonder in detail. So that's unfortunate. I say we, I really mean I get to talk about Super Mario Bros. Wonder in detail because I am the only one of the three of us who were present who had played significant portions of the game. So unfortunately, you're going to get to hear a lot of James the Tin Man Jones throughout this episode. Does it get better in segment 2? No, it doesn't get better in segment 2. So again, I'm not blaming anybody for John making my audio record on the wrong device. I don't know how he managed to change the settings in my Audacity to record to the wrong device after I did the test recording, which we do every week. But it happened, and no one is to blame except John Lindemann. So what I promise to you is not that this will never happen again, because this is Radio Free Nintendo, and you know it will. What I promise to you is that I will go as long as I can before it happens again. And I will try to stretch out the duration between these kinds of James pre-recording segments. So, again, apologies for the audio quality this week. We will get back to my normal crisp and sonorous voice next week. In the meantime, here's episode 846.
Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. It is October 26th, 2023, and we are about to exit the spooky train. If you are listening to this episode when it comes out, congrats, you found the secret path to RFN episodes as our RSS feed is broken again. We're working on it. Hopefully it's fixed by the time you hear this. If it's not, congratulations on finding it. I'm James Jones. I'm joined today by Mr. Guillaume Bayet.
Mushy mushy.
Oh, changing it up.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. John Lindemann.
It is an absolute pleasure to be here, James.
It is an absolute pleasure to have you, John. Greg, however, is not enjoying the pleasure of being here because he's watching the Bills play an NFL game on a Thursday, which is the worst day to play an NFL game. History has proven. I do not have the present score up.
They're currently up by 7, Bills.
Okay.
So plenty of time to blow that.
In the third, right?
Yeah, it's in the third.
Okay. This is episode 846, and I don't know what we're going to call this one yet, so I can't give you the name. If I gave you the name of the episode before the episode happened, you'd think it was wizardry or I just edited it. I might do that one day just to screw with people. It'll be fun. But we're going to go ahead and get started with the obvious thing here, and it would probably take up the majority of the runtime of the episode. He says, because he's the only one who's played it to any kind of completion, it is Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So all three of us have played it. Guillaume, I know you, due to the joys of shipping, did not get it until recently.
Yeah, I kind of waited at the last minute to pre-order it, and then I guess the only copy that they had was on the West Coast, and so my copy traveled far to reach me, and Canada Post over here, like the the mail doesn't get delivered 7 days a week, like for you guys, or 6 days a week, or I don't know what it is. It was a big deal, I think, when it dropped from 7 to 6, right? And it was a big deal, and every Canadian was just like, "Fuck you."
That's like every Canadian nowadays, pretty much.
Yeah.
It shows up sometimes. Occasionally, you hear stories about some overworked mail worker hiding them in their car or some bullshit. But broadly speaking, I get mail, so yeah. Again, then John, I know you're only on the second world, correct?
Correct.
Which is kind of a misnomer because you play a whole bunch of stages before you even get to the first world. There's I can't remember what they call that area. The interstitial between. I know you play the first world, then you play a bunch of stages, then you play the second world.
Yeah,
right.
you're on the islands. You're in the islands, and then you go up to the second world. So
yeah,
it's kind of like almost like a 2.5 worlds,
like a hub world. So I've beaten the game. I've gotten all the Wonder Seeds. I have gotten all of the coins and flagpoles in the first 5 worlds and half of the special stages. And that means there's 2 for me to harvest. And then the hub world area, I still need to finish cleaning that up too. I am doing this in pursuit of a thing you unlock for doing that. It is... There it is again. They love putting this stuff in there. It is exhausting to have to go get all the flagpoles. I find that to be very frustrating sometimes, especially when I fuck up the flagpole like 4 times in a row on one stage. That's a really good feeling. But yeah, we're all in very different phases of playing this game at this point, so it'll be interesting for us to kind of talk through it. I guess y'all are both pretty early. What are your first impressions?
I like it. I like it a lot. Certainly, I find it more engaging, I think, than past Mario titles, 2D Mario titles, just because I feel like they gave you a lot of outs and didn't really force you to deal with the difficult stuff if you don't want to, if that makes any sense. I like how they have the star ratings for a lot of the worlds. That's helpful just because you know what you're getting into. And you also know, hey, maybe if this annoys me, then I can just go and do something else. I can just go and try some other world.
A little bit like the structure of the 3D games, where there are stars or shines or whatever the fuck we're collecting in this game, moons.
Mm-hmm.
Flowers.
But you don't have to get them all. Flowers, yeah, sure. And you just end up going and getting something else instead. And you decide to go to a different stage, or you go to a different challenge if it's one where you can pick the challenge you want to go after. Or if it's one where it's just an open space and there are lots of challenges around, instead it'd be like your Mario Odyssey. You just go get what you want to get and you move on. And some of that in the 2D games, but not to the same degree. Whereas this one, there's a lot of areas that are just, this is an open area of stages you can pick from.
Mm-hmm.
Pick the one you want to do, and as long as you get enough of the Wonder Seeds, you can unlock the boss. And it's pretty generous on how many you need in most cases.
Yeah. Yeah, I have it
15 and there's 30 available or something.
Yeah, I have it running right now, and so I'm pretty much at the part. I have access to Fluff Peak's Palace, and I have not completed the 2 worlds prior to that. Right, like there's a little like landing right before you can walk up to the palace. I have not completed those 2 worlds, but I've destroyed the Fluff Peak's flying battleship. So.
Okay, yeah, that's the like Bowser middle stages that they drop on you every so often.
Yep.
Okay, Gil, what about you? How far have you gotten into it?
Yeah, not that far at all. I'm starting the fluff whatever puff stage.
So it's about you're basically within an hour or so of each other then.
Yeah. So Karen and I have started playing it together. We're going to play through the whole game co-op. I haven't even checked out the internet features because what's the point, right? Like we haven't turned that on. We haven't tried it. Anyway,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I can describe them a little bit, but why don't you go ahead and get your thoughts out? Then I'll give you a rundown on them.
Well, basically, like either it was really the right week for me to receive Mario Wonder, or the worst week to get Mario Wonder, because I know everyone has like is dealing with their own problems, but I've been really stressed out about being like having to deal with like condo stuff recently, and it's been giving me anxiety and insomnia, and I'm not able to see the wonder. I'm afraid to say, like I'm playing this game.
Not able to see the wonder.
Yeah, I'm playing this game, and my heart is just closed to it. It's not making me feel as better. It's not making me feel wonder the way that I wish that it was. I kind of. I'm a little bit bored by it. Like I'm kind of
not in the mood.
Yeah, I guess so. But like so far, and of course, I know this is just the beginning of the game, but I don't feel like the stuff I've seen has been all that unexpected. I can still see like, yes, this is a Mario game for sure, and the secrets are still where I expect them to find them, yeah, like usually, like the Wonder Seed gimmick hasn't been all that delightful. Like okay, like some enemies pop up on the screen from where they weren't before, or you're being chased by a thing, but it's nothing that's making me like, wow, I never thought I'd see that in a Mario game.
You mean like the Piranha Plant musical number?
I feel like they get cooler as you go along, and they get kind of more elaborate as you go along.
I don't think I've seen the musical number.
Have you seen them all? What was that? You have?
I don't think so.
I thought it was right at the beginning of the game.
Oh, it might have been, but I might have been too cranky to even.
Okay. Yeah. There's one of them. There's a stage. And Greg talked about it last week, where the piranha plants all sing, and if you kill them, they stop singing, which is great. You don't have to kill them because they're not hostile. I mean, they'll hurt you if you touch them, but they're just singing. They don't. You're incidental to what they have going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
What they have going on right now is musical theater. I will say that the Wonder Seed stuff, for me, all of them are at least an interesting change of pace, which isn't like saying a whole lot. That's not giving them but so much credit. That's not dabbing with faint praise, but it's they're not all like, wow, this is amazing. I would say there's probably to me, there were probably about 12 to 15 that I thought like, that's really fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
There are some that are really just like substitutes for, when you have a boss fight in a Mario game and you get to see weird shit in a boss fight. This is really just a stand-in for that. There's a lot that are essentially very much like Mario Odyssey, where Mario is inhabiting an enemy, and now he controls like that enemy, although in this case 2D instead of 3D. And so you have to play like that enemy. But not giving too much away. There's one where not Mario. There's one where the player turns into a Goomba. Well, Goombas can't jump. Goombas are basically killed by anything they touch. And you're in a stage where there is an enemy type that eats everything. It's a very cute little creature that will start like it's very small and low to the ground. It looks almost like it's melted. And then it'll see something. Its little feet, it's got tiny little feet. They'll start twitching like it's running in place. And then all of a sudden its mouth opens huge, like 10 feet tall, and it just consumes whatever's in front of it. Coins, blocks, enemies, it doesn't matter. It'll eat everything. It'll eat power-ups. It doesn't get it. Literally, if it's an item, it will eat it. And there's a bunch of those running around. So Mario has to avoid being eaten, even though he can't defend himself and can't jump, or whoever you're playing as. That's a really fun little segment. It's not very long. It's probably 20, 30 seconds of that. It basically turns into a stealth game. It's neat and it's fun. But it's very much like something out of Odyssey that's essentially had a dimension removed. But there are a few where it's really weird and really kind of fucked up. and confusing.
Well, and some of them are challenging as well. They add an element to the stage where you have to manage that in order to, for example, get all of the coins that you need to get, like the purple coins and stuff like that, where you'll have to play it through a couple of times because you say you get taken through the stage not entirely in your control, and you have to kind of figure out your strategy.
There are... One of the things I like about this, though, is if you die after you get a purple coin, you don't lose it as long as you clear the stage without quitting. So you don't have to clear the stage on that life. So you get a purple coin, you die. Even if you didn't touch a checkpoint flag, you still have that coin.
Yep.
And so there's a very late special world stage. I mean, it's only as late as you want it to be. But it's the full 5 stars. It's absolutely miserable difficulty. Took me dozens and dozens and dozens of lives. But if I had to actually get the star coin or get the whatever flower coins and survive, it's not possible. Like some of them literally seem like, hey, we know you're going to die when you get this. Because the wonder effect is essentially you're being chased by lava and the stage is falling away out from under you. It's also appearing in front of you in rhythm with the music. So you have to time your jumps to the music or you'll fall behind the pace. Or if you jump too early, there won't be a wall there for you to wall jump off because it's a wall jump stage. It's really hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, I've hit there's an early version of that I've gone through.
Yeah,
and it's fairly easy, but still you can see what they're doing with it, and if that comes back in a harder form, that would be difficult. What I really do like that kind of brings me to the topic of badges, though, where I really like the badges mechanic. It adds a layer of strategy to the levels that really makes things interesting, and also there's badges that help you. You always have to make that trade-off, right? And there's also things that some of the badges they alter stages in such a way that stages can be fundamentally easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't know that until you go through it with the badge. So
there's that wall jumping one that I was talking about. There's a badge that gives you effectively flutter jump. It's not as pronounced as some of the flutter jumps in other games, but it's there. Mm-hmm. It makes that wall jump stage easier because it gives you a little bit of extra give if you screw up the jump, because you can flutter to try to make up the difference. But it means your jumps aren't as quick. They aren't as like bang, 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 bang. So it can, because that thing you have to stay on the cadence, and the cadence is constantly speeding up because the music keeps getting faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. Using the flutter jump, you don't have to use the flutter jump. You can disengage the jump, but just lift the button. And then Mario more or less jumps the same way. But using the flutter jump essentially is costing you precious hundredths of a second, which all add up on that particular stage. But it makes some of the nastier wall jumps way more reasonable versus their normal state, which is nigh impossible. And since it's a full, I think it's 57 seconds long because it's on a timer. It's a full 57 seconds of that kind of platforming. And there's no fat to trim in your time. Like, that badge is why I was able to clear that stage. But that badge is also why I lost probably 12 lives in the process. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I would have been able to clear that stage without that badge. I've never accomplished that feat. I've cleared it 3 times now. But I've always had that badge on to do it. But I know that badge is responsible for a number of deaths. But it's not clear that I would have even made it that far into the stage that it could have that when it cost me happened if I hadn't had the badge to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's the trade-off. There's a really good badge that I think is almost unusable, but it's really fun, which is if you start walking, Mario absolutely high-speed dashes like he's motherfucking Sonic the Hedgehog. Like map speed Sonic. And not like, oh, he speeds up to it. No, like instantly takes off like a rocket ship. And he can run off the edge of a stage and air run for a little bit, literally running in the air. So if you hit a ramp while you're running, he'll keep going up. And then for a split second or two, he keeps going. And if you can jump at any point during that period where he's in the air, but if you don't jump in time, you're just going to fall, you're dead. So like you can't jump once you start falling. I don't know how the fuck you would use that thing in anything but the stages it's built for, because there are these badge test stages. I think there's 2 per each, where it's like one's the easy stage and how you can use the badge, and then there's the hard version. I feel like trying to do literally anything Mario shoots off absolutely out of a cannon. It makes him almost impossible. But there was a point where one of the talking flowers in this game,
which Guillaume, I thought that would melt your cold heart. These talking flowers, but you seem to be immune.
There are times where I want to get rid of them.
I love them. I think they're great.
I usually want to go check out what they have to say. Like when they're out of the way, I want to pass in front of them so that they'll say their thing, and then I'm disappointed. It's not especially interesting.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, don't get me wrong, I wish they'd shut the hell up. But I think they're funny.
If you're on...
Charming, even.
If you're on a stage that you've been running for like 20 to 30 lives, and he says the same thing every time...
Yep. Agreed.
You're good. You don't want to hear it anymore. And that one stage I was describing earlier, he basically says like, goodbye. And it's every time, and I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm going to get killed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't need this from you.
I do appreciate their positivity, though.
Broadly positive. It is weird how much they talk. Are they? Yeah. So are they dubbed in French?
Oh, I'm not. I don't usually play my games in French, so.
Oh, okay.
But probably, like they probably would have to be, yes.
Because there's a lot of them, and they talk a lot.
Yeah, they do.
There's a lot of lines.
They say a lot.
Lots of games have lots of lines, and they're dubbed.
Yeah, but Mario games never have any lines.
Yeah,
that they have to dub.
At some point, Nintendo will have to get dragged kicking and screaming into the 90s.
Oh, they'll just won't have any more.
I was waiting for Guy
dialogue.
I was waiting for a snarky comment from Guy around this topic. Just eventually,
they'll just get rid of they're going to learn the lesson of, okay, so no more spoken dialogue in Mario games. Okay,
well, that has been their MO for a long time, but yeah, at this point, I guess they can't really avoid it. That's the... Well, I mean, they still are. I mean, yeah, no, it's true. I mean, Zelda, it's not like everyone is voiced all the time. And I think that's, Nintendo's games are better for it. Like, I don't think that voicing every little single character that has nothing really important to say is the way to go. I don't know if I needed these flowers, though.
I like, and it's a side comment, but I like that Link doesn't talk in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
My thought is, I have a sort of a picture of what I think he would sound like based on his guttural noises. Mm-hmm. But a lot of his lines, especially in Breath of the Wild, they really sanded this back in Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom, he's very much a good boy. Link's a good boy in that game. Yes, he is. He's basically a fucking golden retriever. He's a good boy. In Breath of the Wild, he's a little bit of an asshole sometimes. And there's definitely some snark that my head put on his voice that there's no way Nintendo's voice actors would have been allowed to have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a couple lines where he's got some sass in him, and it's like, ooh, I can hear him saying that right now, and it's very funny to me.
Yeah, voice acting these days is funny because I feel like I remember back when it was such a novelty that games had voice acting. And
Fantasy X is fully voice acted.
And you're sitting there like, oh man, this is so cool. Now you're just like, oh god, shut up. Just stop talking. And it's like, I don't know, almost all voice acting in games now, I listen to about 25% of it and click A to just move it forward. Because I can always read quicker than the voice acting.
I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that. No, I'm guessing maybe we won't do more new business other than Mario, but I've been playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Mm-hmm.
And so speaking of voice acting, it's just amazing. I had to show...
It sure has it.
Yeah, I had to show Karen, like the, what is it, the librarian, just like, what do you need?
Yeah, I still hear that in my nightmares.
I mean, like, my go-to is always the shopkeeper in
Resident Evil.
Star Fox Adventures, Dinosaur
Resident
Planet.
Evil. What are you buying? It's like
That's fucking masterpiece compared to the English, and obviously English guy trying to do an English old woman voice in Star Fox Adventures running the shop.
Mhm.
It's too much. Just constantly screaming that at you when you try to pay, quote, too much for the products this ghost dinosaur has on sale. Could they just price their shit so you don't have to guess? No, fuck you. The game has a negotiation mechanic in the store. Star Fox Adventures is an abomination. It's wild. But yeah, like I will say though, there are games where if the voice acting is really, really good and really adds something, I stick around for it.
Mhm.
Like I don't just hammer through it. So like I think Xenoblade 2's voice acting is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I think the comedy timing of a lot of the voice actors is really, really good. And it's to me, it's great. Like getting there's real delivery, there's artistry in it. They're obviously professionals.
I would put Hades in that same class. Hades has some fantastic voice acting that is
great.
So good that you want to stick around for it.
But the game has like a million. I'm not joking. The game has like a million lines of
it's
recorded
crazy.
dialogue.
Like I mean, I'm like, wow, there's nothing reused here at all. This is insane.
Release the number at some point, and I remember you and I talking about it, and it was like, well, was it 6 digits? It was crazy.
It was some crazy number, yeah. Really impressive.
But it's also the this is where it really works. The actors knew their character, and the actors put a life into that character. Like they knew what that character was. They knew its motivation. They knew how it was written, so they knew like how that character thought, and they built a voice and a delivery around that character. And that's what really makes a difference. When you hear a voice actor who just delivers the same voice role every single time, even if it's good, even if they land all the roles and stuff, they're just that person.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a story from way back at the Denver episode 400 show where John and I at 1 a.m. are playing George of the Jungle on Wii.
Good times?
No, we were miserable. And George opened his mouth, and it was Steve Bloom. And he was just doing Steve Bloom. And I just announced, that's Steve Bloom. And John, who did not know who that was just like, what? His voice of Spike in Cowboy Bebop, and the voice of like 9 other roles, but all of them, he sounds like himself, because that's the role he does. He's an excellent voice actor, but he's an excellent voice actor at one specific type of role. He really does really well at it. He can do a few. I think he's got about 3 voices he'll pull out. Xenoblade 2, like every character had created a persona in their voice. Or in the case of Mythropyre, they created 2 of them, which is impressive as shit. That's really hard for one person to basically have 2 distinct voices. But with the flowers, they're just there to make noise. Ultimately, they're just noisemakers like us.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fun. They do occasionally give good hints, though. It's a really clever way to throw a hint in there, and it's a non-written text way. So if a person that can't read yet, because there are going to be kids playing this game, a common refrain that pops up with them is if you manage to miss the Wonder Seed and just continue past the level, a lot of times they'll say something like, "Feels like we're missing something, doesn't it?"
Yeah,
and that's
helpful too. I've had that with Wonder Seeds where you're like, that flower is trying to tip me off to something, and there's something around here I need to look for. There's something hidden here.
Yeah, it's and that almost always means it's the Wonder Seed, and that's great.
Bottom line, the flowers are your friends, Guillaume, and you should respect them. You don't have to like them, but you should respect them.
I haven't needed those hints usually. Like the level itself kind of tells you already what you have to do. Like the latest thing was like this big ice block that was conspicuous, not going to be kicked by one of those enemies that kicks ice blocks at you. Mm-hmm. And so it was clear, like, yeah, okay, here's the Wonder Seed or whatever, the Wonder Flower. Because we broke, like, it's usually obvious, but again, I'm very early in the game, and so
Thinking, I found all the Wonder Seeds. There's a badge you get that tells you where hidden things are. So it'll tell you where, like, if you're near purple coins or the Wonder Seed. And it'll start making bloop, bloop, bloop noises. And the closer you get, the more it'll beep. And, like, if it's in a pipe, it'll go crazy when you're standing on the pipe.
Sure.
I only had to use that for, like, 2 or 3 Wonder Seeds. Honestly, the biggest hard part in Wonder Seeds was figuring out what stage I might have missed them in. Because a lot of times it'll tell you there's 3 Wonder Seeds in the stage.
Mhm.
But there's a bunch where just because it says there's 2 doesn't mean there's 2. There's a third one that's hidden, essentially.
Oh, okay.
Or extra hidden. So like if you see one where it's got like the dotted outline of 3, that one definitively only has 3. But if you see one that's got 2, it might have a third. And so there were, when I got to, I think I was down to like 1 Wonder Seed in 1 world. Because if you get all the Wonder Seeds in a world, the game stops and tells you did it. It's like, oh, you got all the Wonder Seeds in this world. Cool. And there's a little mark on the screen. I was down to 1 in 1 world and I could not fucking figure out what stage it was in. And in that case, I just used the detector. So I knew what stages it wasn't in because I had the mark telling me that stage was completely finished.
Mhm.
And I just completely finished the stages until I process of eliminated my way to the right. But yeah, they're not super hidden. But it makes sense because they put a lot of effort into those segments. They want you to see them. I do like though that it's, if you get a Wonder Seed, that's it. That's your Wonder Seed for that stage. You can't go back and get both.
Yeah.
It's basically like an alternate route in the stage when you get the other one.
Yep.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if I like that though, because usually, like there are these Wonder Seeds where it's like something chases you or you're on top of like a big rolling ball of something, and then it knocks the flagpole out of the way. And then you get the Wonder Seed at the end, with the second flagpole, basically. Mm. But then, like, you want the first one, you have to replay the stage. And essentially, you just now are doing a more boring version of the same stage you just played. And that's it. That you just solved the second Wonder Seed,
Sometimes the flagpole, when you get there, like, there'll be ones where they expect you to use the Wonder Seed to get to the flagpole. Hmm. And if you go get that flagpole without it, you don't even get the regular flower. What they call poplins.
Yeah.
Okay.
When it comes to, like, there's no poplin house. There's no poplin. There's nothing. Mario just looks around confused, and it goes stage clear ? And he just walks off.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've had that too. I was like, I didn't clear that stage because it's actually literally telling me that I didn't clear it.
You accomplished nothing. Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Cheated yourself.
Yeah. But then usually, if you get there the first way, you get it. I had an incident where I ended up with one, and I was like, I've got the seed. And it was apparently the secret one, and it took me to a secret exit, and I was like, I'm a genius. I've unlocked this. And then I ended up following this path of like secret stages and wandering into just absolute fucking hellscape of a level. I was like, oh no, what have I done? I like the structure of these stages. I think fundamentally they're really short.
Yeah.
I don't know if, like, there's no super long stages.
Nope.
And I like that because it means that going through and clearing them again to get the things isn't bad.
Yeah, and really I look at past Mario games and I feel like they've made the stages extra long just to kill you by attrition. Like, we've given you so many chances to die that at some point you're going to die, and I guess that makes the game better?
It's a lot of these stages, like I said, I've been replaying stages just to collect purple coins and shit. Mm-hmm. I can get through most of them in sub 3 minutes.
Yep. Which,
during doing the harvesting of flagpoles and shit, that's very helpful, because getting flagpoles sucks if you don't. If it takes a long time to go back. Because if you miss, and you just miss the top of the pole, guess what? You get to do it again, brother.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yep.
You won't, but have fun.
Yep.
I had one where I failed to get the flagpole 4 times in a row. You can imagine how fast I got through that stage the 4th time.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine how fast I got through it the 5th time in that sitting. I cleared that stage in like 58 seconds because I didn't stop for nothing. But the badges, we were talking about that earlier. Like, there's a badge that is really good for getting flagpoles. And so I basically use that badge for getting flagpoles. It's the one where you do the tornado jump when you press the shoulder button.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have that one yet.
I do.
But basically,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's really useful for flagpoles. And that's like, there's a couple other stages where I'll use it. You can use it to bypass some of the platforming challenges when you're rerunning a stage to get stuff. But like, oh shit, I'm not gonna get the flagpole. No, I'm gonna get it. No problem. Yeah, but like the game feels really snappy. I was getting through a lot of stuff in quick succession. It is a bit short. Now, let me say what I mean by that, because there's a lot of ways to interpret that. There's an absolute shit ton of levels. There's a ton of them. There's a ton of them. But a lot of them are really fast. A bunch of them are like these weird side levels that aren't normal levels. There's some kind of goofy challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are combat arenas. Some of them are like these weird puzzle solving stages. Some of them are these. I don't know how best to describe it. You have to find hidden coins to unlock the Wonder Flower.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The search party ones.
Yeah. And then there's some that's just like, hey, here's a Wonder Seed transformation that we gave you earlier, where Mario turned into a pile of Jello. We're going to design just this really quick, like less than 20-second stage, if you know how to solve it. Little puzzle to play with that thing because we think it's really funny. And there's no coins, there's no flagpole. It's just one Wonder Flower, and that's it. It's just something we thought was fun, and we put it in there so you get to see it. So you can really burn through this game fast. I mean, I hit the credits on my third day with it. Like, I hit them on Saturday, I think, and I had all the seeds on Sunday.
Your stamina for plowing through games always amazes me. Like, or actually, your ability to focus on going through games. Like me, I'll play a game for maybe 2 or 3 hours and I'm done. I'm like, I gotta just do something else for a while.
That's it. That's my superpower on a lot of things. Is my ability to tear through a piece of information. It's just when I get distracted, it's a nightmare, and I never get back on topic. But yeah, I can get on the game like this, and if I get on a run, I can go 3-4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And just absolutely plow through it. I also think this game's super difficult.
It's not, which is probably why I like it. It's not trying to show me how difficult a Mario game can be.
5-star stuff, like there's a couple that are a little bit fucked. Where I'm like, this is kind of messed up. They're all fair though. Like the only one that I look at and go, that one might not be fair, is the wall jump one I was talking about earlier, and it's not because the stage layout's unfair. It's because Mario's wall jump is a little bit fickle, and sometimes he doesn't grab the wall.
Yeah.
And I understand why it happens when it happens. There's a reason for it. I could explain it. It's not worth the time, but I could explain to you why he didn't grab the wall that time. But when I'm doing it on a stage, I'm rushing because the lava's coming up right behind me and the floor is falling out from under me. I don't have time to say I have to perfectly make sure he touches the wall and I press jump before I release the side on the stick. Because when I release, he's going to start falling, and then I can't wall jump anymore. Like, I have to make that move of jump, wall, jump again, wall. But between the two walls, or between the two jumps, might be less than a second and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So that's maybe 6 or 7 commands I'm inputting in rhythm in that time. So yeah, those are tough. They're really tough. They're fair. The issue with them is more Mario's mechanics don't always work exactly the way I'd want them to.
Yep.
But yeah, even the toughest stuff in this game, the absolute, well, I haven't seen the toughest thing apparently, but the toughest stuff in this game is, not horrific. Once you clear the main game, there's a shop you can access where you can just buy 99 lives.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I find even being able to buy 20 lives at a time in the Poplin shops makes things considerably less difficult.
Like, I'll tell you what happens when you run out of lives because of that one stage. You get kicked out of the stage, you lose some purple coins, and the prince goes, "Boy, that was tough. Here, let me give you some lives," and you get 5 lives.
Yeah.
Which it's just frustrating to see that animation over and over again. Now, if you had coins or anything, you lose those. So you don't want to do that. So once you get to the Poplin shop that lets you buy like 20 lives, just buy them out. Just buy up all the lives. Have 99 lives, have the max number of lives, and then you'll be good to go for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
It's great. That makes living so much easier. But it does make me just wish they didn't have lives. Like, just fucking get rid of them.
Well, that's what I thought was interesting too. Is that I was like, wait, I'm so conditioned from Mario games to, always be on a timer, right? And there's no timer. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, cool.
You're right.
And I mean,
with the exception of a couple stages.
Yeah, that are specifically designed around being a timed experience, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, so I can do whatever I want for as long as I want. All right.
Sure.
Yeah.
So maybe we can do a bit of listener mail because we're just touching on Meowth's.
Go
So
for it.
Meowth Discord handle writes, or maybe alternatively, whoa, annoying flower Meowth writes, "Dear our effin' crew. There's been a lot of discourse over the past few years concerning lives and platformers. I'm gonna cut right to the chase. I think lives are good. Having stakes is what makes games exciting, and I hate that that's a design ethos that's getting delegated to indie games and the Souls genre. As a relic who treasures 16-bit relics, crossing the finish line by the skin of my ass is a thrill that I'm still chasing to this day. I forgot where I was going with this, but I'm 2 worlds into Mario Wonder, and I like that dying has greater consequences than womp womp womp. 10 coins, please. I hate when games waste my time, and games without game over seem more alright, with vague, you'll get there eventually filler."
I don't know. If this game didn't have, I mean, I've effectively been playing this game without lives since I bought 99 lives.
Yeah, I feel like this game is really just very easy on lives.
Yeah, like at that point, because I went into that stage that ground all my lives to zero. Like I went in there with like 22, and I hadn't bought lives yet at that point. I just naturally accumulated them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I understand the sentiment, though, and I kind of feel the same way, even though I feel like it's not reasonable.
It doesn't feel germane in this game, though.
Yeah, but like, like a tough platformer, yeah, when you get unlimited lives, there is kind of a sense of, like, you can just keep throwing yourself into those saw blades or that pit or that whatever, and it doesn't matter, one day you'll get there, as Meowth said. And like, even though the game is really, really tough, like it's almost as if like there's friction missing, like the fact that you can just keep dying over and over again, and sometimes like in some games, in some indie games, like there's not even load time. Like it's great in that you don't get to wait too long before you get to try again, but it's not so great in that it kind of makes the experience ultimately more forgettable for me. It's as if like the frustration of playing through certain games makes it more sticky in my memory.
I didn't realize this would be a trip through Guillaume's psyche, but here we are.
No, we're in the inner space at this point. It's
I guess so.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
I get that. I just don't think this game is an example.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, with the exception of a level that was literally designed to expend your life, it never felt germane. Like my lives basically only went in one direction, and it wasn't down.
Mm-hmm.
So when I finally cleared that stage after having bought 99 lives, because fuck this shit.
But just the fact that you can buy 99 lives is because they are extremely generous with those coins.
I had literally maxed out the purple coin.
Yeah.
Like I could not carry anymore. So I just said, fuck it, here's a bunch of them. Give me all of your stuff. Now, I later found something to spend those coins on, so that was kind of a bummer. But you know what? I have 99 coins again.
And do you have all the standees?
No, I have 120 out of 144.
That's still a lot. You've spent
It is a lot.
quite a chunk of change on those standees.
Well, and I was buying them from the there's a shop where you can guarantee that you get a new one.
Oh, cool.
Late in the game, but it costs more.
Yeah.
It costs significantly more, like 300%. So I was just doing that. Just fuck it. I have so many coins. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. This might be, even though I know I'm going to get a new one, this might still be more cost effective to just go the gotcha route because it's only 10.
Yeah.
And I'm almost certainly going to get new ones, but it's so much faster. So fuck it. This is about time. I wish I could buy a bunch in one shot rather than have to just buy one at a time. How about that?
If you could have time in a bottle, James,
How about I just say I would like 10, please? I was like, come on. Nintendo Badge Arcade could do this. Why can't you? Yeah, I'm just... Standees are fine. I do want to talk
they're
about...
so frivolous, right? Like, there's just...
Well, are you playing online or not?
Yeah.
I've seen you. Yeah, you're online.
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess we could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So, Guillaume, you haven't played it.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, they described it pretty well in the Direct, but essentially you can see other players. And one of the things we talked about in the Direct was like, okay, are you actually seeing other players? Or are you seeing, like, that player 3 seconds ago, so they don't have to worry about live? I can tell you're definitely seeing other players. And I can say it because I've interacted with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was a really nasty platforming stage. And so if you get got, you have 5 seconds to tag another player or one of their standees. And I realized that a player I rescued and then immediately got rescued by them because I basically lost my life after having rescued them. And they immediately turned around to rescue me. So that was how I knew, oh, no, that person is seeing me pretty much in real time.
Yeah.
Because they turned around to come get me.
Yeah. And
at great personal peril because of the platform.
I've had people save my bacon.
Oh, yeah.
100%. And I've done that for other players.
Clearly taking deliberate action to do it.
Yep.
And then I realized that player, when we got to the next, it's a lot of these Mario levels, they'll be like a platforming section that's maybe 5 or 6 jumps. That's super perilous. And then you'll get like a little break period. There'll be like a little ledge you can stand on for a second to catch your breath before you go into the next platform section. And rather than it being one long continuous chain, you'll get these little break periods. That's been something in the Mario games for a long time. A section of challenge, a section of break. A section of challenge, a section of break. And it's probably psychological to a certain degree, but also it probably makes it easier for them to design the stage. They don't have to design one long, consistent strand. They can design and really polish one little area and then polish the next little area. And they know that by giving you that space to reset, they can effectively say, like, okay, we know the player is standing here. They're not mid-jump because they're in this little area we gave them that's safe. So they're not like doing like the triple jump bounce or landing in some weird bullshit. But we got through one set after we double rescued each other. And that player just stopped there and waited for me while I picked up a power-up. Because they wanted to go into the next section at the same time I did, so that we could tag each other if one of us got knocked out.
Yep.
I realized, they're waiting for me to get this power up.
Yeah.
Because they want to run this next set together so we can essentially assist one another should something bad happen.
Yep. Now,
cool.
It can be distracting, mind you, because you can have multiple players playing along, multiple ghosts running along with you on a stage, and on some of the stages it gets pretty busy and you can get kind of distracted by it.
Oh, yeah.
But on the other hand...
on a stage you can hear lots of screaming dead toads.
Yeah. Yeah,
Jesus.
And every once in a while you'll kind of fall to your death trying to save somebody too, just trying to be a good Samaritan. Yeah. But that's the whole thing. To me, I find it's a very useful employment of that type of gameplay.
There are going to be some stages that when people aren't playing this game anymore are going to be extremely difficult.
Yes.
That having other players made it easy for me to clear it because that stage was kind of fucked.
Yeah.
And the other one where it comes up a lot are the scavenger hunt stages, where you have to go find these coins, and a lot of times they're pretty well hidden. It's like there's an invisible block you have to hit that causes another thing that you could then do something from that, and then you get the coin. And players will make the invisible block show up, jump up there, put a standee on it. So if you haven't found the block, you see a standee floating in the air, and you know you can't do that, which means there's got to be a block under them you can't see yet.
Yep.
So it's like people will stand around to give other players in those stages hints.
Yep.
I've absolutely seen somebody I knew had all the coins because I'd watched them find them. Basically stand around because the last coin was really fucking hard and they hadn't seen anybody else solve it. Because what happens is, I'm not going to give away too much, but Mario ends up in a different place on the screen. And I could see their ghost in a place on the screen that was very obvious and very like, what the fuck? Why are you there? How did you get there? What the hell? And I watched that person then go to the way that you get in there and just keep jumping up and down to get people's attention. And then when people would walk over there, they literally pantomimed what you have to do to make pipe show up. Even though they had already made the pipe show up. They just did it. Just so you could see someone do it. And then if you just did, even if you didn't understand what they were trying to demonstrate, if you just copied them, the pipe showed up. And that was how I was like, the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
So I literally just copied them and all of a sudden the pipe popped out. I went, ooh. And then I went and got it, and they did the little emotion reaction, the smiley face one. Once they saw me appear in that section of the screen that I couldn't get to otherwise.
It's wholesome, Guillaume, and heartwarming.
Yeah.
It was actually really nice. It was like, oh yeah, that person was happy that they were able to help me figure out this fucking stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and got the flower, and then I heard because it says at the bottom when people get the flower. And they got it too. And then it was everybody got to the goal together. And we all got bonus hearts for it. I don't know. It was nice.
Yeah.
It was a nice little thing. It was like, oh, I was struggling with that stage. I'm like, cannot figure out how the fuck to get the coin. I was like, I need to get over there. I don't know how to get over there. And I saw the person go over there, jump up and down to show, I'm here. And then they went back to how you get to it. I was like, that's fucking great.
Yeah.
And I've done it now too. Like I've been one of those stages, I solved it, and I could see that somebody hadn't figured it out. I tried to get their attention by using the little bullhorn indicator because you get 4 little emoticon indicators. I went with the bullhorn one. I just kept doing it in their face, and then I slowly walked to the thing, and eventually they followed me, and I just jumped, and then I stood out of the way, even though we don't interact with each other, and they jumped and got it, and I got the smiley face back a bunch of times. It was like, oh, I solved your problem. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats. It's interesting. Like I thought they did it this way because they couldn't figure out how to make online multiplayer work synchronously. And it might still be some of that. Because if there is a little bit of lag in this, it doesn't make a huge difference.
Yeah.
But it is pretty synchronous. Like I can see people reacting to me in basically real time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not something I could say about Mario Maker 2's online.
No, that's very true.
But it's something I think we're going to see get copied in some other like maybe indie platformers because it works out really well. But of course it's right now is the best it's ever going to be because there's 1 million people playing the game. Like I was always in a full, for lack of a better word, lobby every stage I went in when I played the game the night it came out after we recorded last week's episode. Fired up the game and played it, and every stage I went into, and of course that was the beginning of the game, had a full complement of 4 players in it. I like that they always make sure if I played the whole game as Mario. I like that I never saw another Mario.
Yeah.
They very deliberately made sure that I saw every other character I saw was not Mario. So when they said Mario cleared reached the goal, they were talking about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's minor. But it really does make it feel like they started at the beginning. It's this whole party of Mario and his fucking friends out to solve the problem.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, there's Blue Yoshi. There's Yellow Yoshi. It's like, there's my friends, Yellow Yoshi and Blue Toad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a really... Yeah, no, I would still love to have been able to just fire up this game multiplayer with y'all and just run through a stage.
Yeah.
But the reality of the situation is how these levels are designed, it wouldn't have worked. These levels wouldn't be able to absorb multiplayer. Not really. And they'd had to have built that into the level design because these are effectively ghosts and they don't take up any space. They don't really have to factor them into the level design, and so this game feels really good single player. It feels really good single player. If you tried to jam 4 players into it, I think it would feel chaotic. And we know that because we've seen it in Mario U.
Yeah.
Where it feels really fucking chaotic. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a huge departure from the new Super Mario Brothers games. Visually, there's a lot going on that those games don't do. I think it's a lot more whimsical and a lot more willing to just be fucking weird. And I don't just mean like, the power-ups are weird. But also I'm stealing this from Gershman because he mentioned it. I caught him playing a little bit of it. Just like, here's a pit. What's in that pit? Is it a pit? Or is it a special area?
Yeah.
Who's to say? It's like just willing to give you something like that where like you're gonna test this pit and you're gonna fall to your death and you're gonna be mad that it wasn't a special area because you just fell in a different pit by accident and landed in a special area. Now you're like, well, I gotta test every pit now. It's this willingness to do weird shit and to, I don't want to use the phrase subvert your expectations because I hate that fucking phrase, but to do things that would be unusual in a Mario game previously.
Yeah.
Maybe you would do one. Maybe you'd see like a couple of them throughout the course of the game, just because they wanted to show we could. But instead, you saw, 2 or 3 of those every stage, and it was just a willingness to let Mario to have weird enemies, like weirder enemies than we're used to. They basically created, I'm going to guess, 5 or 6 new named enemy types in this game, which doesn't seem like a big deal. But in Mario games, they tend to reuse shit a lot, which is why we still have the non-entity that is Spike floating around. It's a really fucking good game.
It is.
It's a really fucking good game.
Yeah, it's really good.
Like there's clearly a ton of thought in everything. Like as I'm sitting here just talking about it now, like I go, oh, that's why it's like that. I now know why the designer, just as we're talking, like things are popping into my head where I was like, that's weird. Why is it like that? And it's like, oh, that's why it's like that. It's like that because it wasn't designed to be. It was designed to be a single player game, but they wanted to have a place where ghosts could congregate or signage could be, or the signs could be put down because they know this jump is an absolute fucking bastard. And this area is like that because they know that a player will put a sign there to farm for hearts, which I don't think actually do anything. So we wanted to give you a spot to put them. That's why it behaves that way. That's really smart. I really love that. That's great. And that shows a tremendous amount of polish. Like they spent a ton of time just polishing this fucking game.
Yeah.
Talk about the fact Mario turns into a goddamn elephant.
Yeah. It's not like that. Like that was like the big reveal, and people were flipping out over it. But it's not even
nothing.
Yeah, it's not even that big of a deal at all.
Well, let me give you a good example of like the polish in this game. What happens if you get to the end of a stage as an elephant?
I actually don't know. I don't know if I've ever finished a stage as an elephant.
It did happen to me, and I know there's a thing, but I don't remember.
So 2 things happen depending on something else. If Mario just arrives as the elephant, I believe he high fives the toad. I mean the poplin. It's a different animation than his normal one.
Right.
If he's got water in his trunk, he waters the poplin and the bud on its head opens.
Right.
But why? Why would you take the time to have a completely separate animation for the state of player is an elephant, trunk has water in it, reached end of stage?
Yeah.
Like it's not necessary.
Well, I mean, even really as an elephant holding water in your trunk, that is just something where I mean, obviously I haven't played the whole game, but it's not super useful, but it's sort of in there just to be kind of fun, and you can experiment and see what happens when you douse different things with water.
Yeah. If you douse the talking flowers with salt water from a sea level, it goes, fishy.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Because it's saltwater. And there's fish in it.
And I haven't even come across that yet.
It's completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's completely unnecessary. But it's there. And I don't even think you can get the elephant power up in that stage. You had to bring it into the stage in order to get to that moment. But they did it. And it's cool. And like when you run into stuff like that, you're like, wow. Somebody spent time on that. On that thing. Somebody made that thing right there for no reason. And I have loved that.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, and you really don't see that very often in games, let's be honest.
Well, it's because there's so much to these games. Games are so big.
Yeah.
That, like, you don't have time. You don't have time to go out there and put other stuff in. To go like, I'm gonna go stick in this like you'll see a few of those in games, where it's like, wow, we have this goofy thing that we hid in here. Look at this. But these are just little whimsical touches.
Mm-hmm.
Just little polished things. I like it. I like it a lot. And it makes the game feel more cartoonish. Like that's the biggest thing, is this feels like a cartoon, not from the looks, but from like even the animation. Here's a good example. I'm sure you've noticed this, whether or not you've internalized it or not. When Mario doesn't, so if you go back and look at how Mario moved in Mario 3D or Mario New Super Mario Bros. Game, so yeah, he's very smooth. He's very, very smooth. His animations are super smooth. They're like a CG movie. Like he moves and it's all very fluid. It looks really nice. In this game, there's very pronounced keyframes where he pauses in his animation, like it makes things feel more impactful. Like he'll be running and there's like parts of him move like it's an animation cell, and parts of him freeze again like it's an animation cell, and it just makes there are tweening frames, for lack of a better word, but like there are these big bold frames in all of his animations that stand out, and it's a minor thing, but it makes a big visual impact.
Mm-hmm.
All the enemies react to everything, and Mario reacts too. Like, everybody reacts to everything. Enemies react to each other.
The thing that struck me right off the bat was how when you walk near to the Koopas, they like narrow their eyes, like I'm gonna get you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, like that's just something where in most Mario games you just walk up to them, they have the same look on their face all the time, but it was just like a little touch.
If you kill an enemy and another one sees it, they have a shocked look on their face. Like they react to that. Or there's an enemy that will kill everything and anything, and they look terrified when that thing shows up on screen because they're reacting to the other enemies. If enemies bump into each other, sometimes they have different expressions depending on what the enemies are. Like there are two enemies that when they bounce into each other, they look mad.
Mm-hmm.
Because they got bumped into. It's really good and really detailed, and it's a minor thing, and it doesn't really change the gameplay in the slightest. But it just creates its own verve around that game. And like I didn't realize how much I liked this game until I started talking about it. Like, and I was talking to a lady friend about it on text messages primarily. I was like, yeah, it's really good. But as I'm talking about it with other people, it's like the shit that's actually really good.
Yeah. And, I was kind of sitting there like, this got like a 93 on Metacritic. And I was like, come on, whatever. People love Mario. I get it. But it is actually, it is really that good.
Like they clearly spent their time on it.
Yeah.
This is why this is the first new original 3D platformer we're getting on the system.
Yeah. And
because they've been working on this game for a long time.
Yeah. And really, I did not expect it to be this good. To be completely honest, I thought it would be like, something where I'd be like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10 or something like that. It's good. It's good for what it is. But it's actually just a really good game, period, across genres.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to, I don't know, like I've already said, like, it's not the game, it's me. I'm having a bad week, but I kind of wonder also if co-op is not preventing me from stopping and listening to the flowers.
I honestly, like, I've been through all the levels now at least 2 or 3 times. I'd imagine every level I've cleared at least 3 times. A lot of them just don't feel like they're going to play well in co-op.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, we're having like I need to communicate better sometimes, and because sometimes like you'll make a mistake. There's a platform that you can't reach because you've just killed the enemy that would have let you jumped on top of it to reach a platform. Maybe there's another enemy that shows up, and I'm like, okay, like, but then Karen will go ahead and kill it, and I'm like, like it's kind of frustrating because like we're not exactly completely in sync as to like what we're supposed to do or what we want the other person to do. So that's a little bit frustrating,
Sniffing around these stages sometimes is part of the joy, and so
yeah. But I haven't found. I don't know. I don't think I found all the coins. So probably I've missed some stuff. But stuff to me like the secrets so far have seemed surprisingly easy.
Yeah,
like you've mentioned like pits that you can go down on. So far, I've found like many, and most of the time, there are clues. Yeah, like you'll be like there was this one where we went down a pipe. There was like a whole thing. Then at the end, you can see like, oh, there's this coin that you can't get to. It's on the other side of this wall. We can't get to it, but like clearly, like there was a conspicuous pit that you would have to go out of your way to go down in. And so it just became like, oh, okay, that's what's going on here. Like that, you go down that pit to get that coin. And I feel like I've seen that type of stuff before. Maybe not in the Mario game, but definitely Mario-inspired games or other platformers. But again, I'm just
Like, what I'll say is there's a lot of stuff in here that's creative, and like there's some really like, hey, this is kind of an effed up thing we're about to ask you to do that Mario 3 would do sometimes in Mario World, but New Super Mario Bros. Games didn't really ask you that kind of like, here's this weird thing that might not be the most polished, but we think it's a funny platforming section.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas those New Super Mario Brothers games were nothing if not like we've really sanded down this level to make sure there's not some goofy bullshit in your way. But it feels like in this game there is goofy bullshit, but it's not bullshit. But it is. It's like deliberate bullshit versus some of that stuff in like Mario World where it's like, this is fucking not good. This is a bad stage that is fun in spite of what you did.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this just constantly feels like even the stages I don't like, it's not that they're bad. They just aren't super good. And so they're the stages I don't like by process of elimination, not because they're not enjoyable. And that's a lot. Like for a game with as many fucking stages as this one has, for it to not be, well, there's some that are stinkers. Would rather, well, there's some that are okay. Like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, I'm excited. I'm excited that you guys have so much more of it left to see because there's some neat shit. It's fun. And yeah, I mean, it's most of the people listening have played it by now, I'm sure. So they're probably just been nodding along for the last hour. But
Sure.
it's kind of, I think I best to word this. If this is Nintendo's last really big game for Switch, which I don't think it is because I think they will drop Metroid on Switch someday. 2028, Metroid Prime 4 coming to Switch. And Switch 2 and Switch 3. It is amazing that we got the Zelda game we got, which is this exercise in giant scale, blooming everywhere, a billion things, and then a year's worth of polish. And then this Mario game, which is very tight game. Very narrow focused, but also really critical path polished in every way they possibly could. And everything that's not on critical path is still really polished. It's a testament to just the capacity they have as a company to put those 2 games out in the same fucking year. Plus other stuff that they put out this year. Like they really leaned on their teams to make this a really solid year bookended for that system. and a bad Fire Emblem game. So that's good. I mean, we talk about like they're different, their third or their second party stuff, but like even the Xenoblade sequel or semi sequel DLC that came out, which is a big long thing. Like they had a productive year, and this is. I'm sitting here right now. I'm basically just doing the top 5 segment we do every year. I'm basically just doing it in my head right now. And I don't know where I would end up. Like if like right now, those 3 are definitely on it. I don't know where they live. Any one of them could be that number 1 game. If you had told me at one point I might consider Mario Wonder my best game of the year, no. Because I mean, we've talked about on the show. I'm not the Mario fiend on this show. I like Mario games a lot, but I'm not. That ain't me. So
I am the same. I like Mario games, but certainly, I mean, I haven't actually like 100% of a Mario game in ages. I can't even remember the last game.
Like I'm quite confident I'm going to eventually get through 100% this game. It's going to take me a little while. Dave the Diver came out today, and that's going to eat up some time because that demo fucking slapped, and everybody loves that game. And Frog Detective came out, and those games are really good, and I bought that too. So I own both those. Like that'll eat up my time, but I want to see everything this game has, and that's really rare because going back and replaying the stages for the 3rd time to get all the coins or to get a flagpole can be tedious.
But it feels worthwhile in this game to me.
Yeah, I'm having fun still going through it.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel like that's going to be incredibly time consuming unless I want it to be. That's I think the big difference for me is that I feel like this game doesn't require a ton of time from me, but it's there if I want it to be. Whereas I feel like past Mario games, 2D Mario games, I would run into stages where I'm just like, fuck, do we really have to do this? Like, are you going to force me to do this ridiculous time-consuming task just to move along in the game? And that's when I would bounce off of it. Because I would start and I would be like, okay, my next stage is just something that is a complete pain in the ass that I'm not going to enjoy.
Yeah, even when I go in and like I said, every day when I'm clearing out a world worth of getting all the coins, getting all the flagpoles, I make sure to do a special stage just so I don't have a day where I have to do nothing but special stages because that day would suck. Even going into the like special stages, I remember hating just getting through, just surviving. Like. I know I'm going into a stage that's going to absolutely beat my ass. And I know I'm going to get frustrated. And I know at some point I'm going to call the game a fucker or something similar. Because it is. I'll get mad because of Mario, the idiosyncrasies of Mario's wall jumping or some bullshit. But, when I get through it, I'm like, oh, fuck you, game. I'm not mad, but just fuck you.
Yep.
Whereas it wasn't like, that sucked. I hate it. Like I'm happy to not have to play it again. Yes, but that's not because it's bad. That's just because it's fucking misery. Just trying to get through it. So I've got, I don't know, 1 more of those, I think, in me that I've got to get through that scares the fucking shit out of me, that going to get all the coins. But
I feel like in its kind of critical path gameplay, I feel like this game doesn't waste your time.
No, not at all.
And that's the big difference to me.
Even going and collecting everything, I knocked out a world in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
That's really fast.
Yeah.
I remember doing this in 3D Land and it took me days and days and days to convert an already very good clear save into a 100% save. So I got to the special stage, which required you get the flagpole with Mario and Luigi because fuck you and your personal time. This game does not require that. You just have to get the flagpole with 1 character. Doesn't matter, and everybody jumps the same. That's the other thing. Everybody jumps the same. I think there was some like why do all the players play the same? All the characters play the same way. I think that came up a little bit when that was announced. I get it because it means they can design the stage knowing what your character can do. If you put a badge on that fucks with what your character can do, that's a you problem. Like, you made it so Mario jumps further than the gap we expected you to be able to jump. That's a you issue, not an us issue. You picked the wrong badge. If you're wearing the stupid spring badge, like you made that call. You made that. We didn't tell you to make that call. You made that call.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they have 4 characters that can play without taking damage from enemies. I get it because it's one less thing you have to worry about. Did I ever use it? No. But there was definitely a coin stage where I'm like, boy, I could just be Nabbit and not have to worry about this goddamn buffoonery.
Yeah.
Have y'all found the reference? You probably haven't. There's a reference to New Super Mario Brothers 2, the game I violently defend.
I don't think I've seen it. No.
I don't.
You would know if you had seen it. Let's put it this way: for a brief period, it's all about the gold comes back.
Yeah. There was
great.
A musical reference. I forget where I saw it, but there is definitely they take one. I think it's one of maybe the theme from Super Mario Brothers 2.
I think that's
it. I think that's in there. There's
lots of little musical stings.
Yeah.
There is so much going on in this fucking game.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. I did notice Mario's a little bit quieter in this game.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't mind.
No, I think Martinet always gave you 175%, which is way more percentages than you have. But they probably also tuned him down a little bit because it's not Charles Martinet. He probably got to take it as far as he wanted to.
Yep.
A new guy, he's like, you're on a leash.
Hashtag not my Mario.
No, not my Mario. It's passable. You can tell sometimes it's not Martinet. But I mean, I probably only thought about it 7 or 8 times over the course of the game.
Yep.
Where I'm like, oh yeah, that's not Mario. I mean, it's Mario, but it's not Mario. I think the Luigi's a little bit worse than the Mario.
Yeah,
it's a little more obvious.
Luigi. I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing a Mario run.
Yeah, so. I can hear other players playing as Luigi, and it's like, that's not right. That is not accurate. The only place where I think that might actually be an issue is if we get a Luigi's Mansion 4, where his voice work for Luigi was so fucking good in Luigi's Mansion 3. All those videos, he was so fucking good. But yeah, it's not a huge deal. Occasionally I noticed it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's not Martinet.
Mm-hmm.
That means that does mean that Nintendo has already done a casting call for a Waluigi voice actor.
Wow, what a dire audition that would be.
Somebody has auditioned to be Waluigi.
Yeah, I mean...
Mr. Eyeballs. Yeah, exactly. Somebody's fucking had to do that voice. They've had to redub the GameCube Mario Tennis opening cinematic 300 times.
And the thing is, too, if they're doing that voice for that, you know that they've done that voice many times before, probably at parties.
Oh, yeah.
They're the Waluigi guy. Listen to my Waluigi voice. Yeah, exactly.
I think TVP has a pretty good Waluigi.
Yeah.
TVP has pretty good Mario voices in general.
Yeah.
His Wario is very good. I think he has a Waluigi as well. I can't remember. But yeah, the Waluigi is unfortunately one of those. Everybody has a Waluigi voice, and most of them are god awful.
Mm-hmm.
Which is appropriate because Waluigi is
just
also
basically
god-awful.
That's like if I would caution our audience, just keep your Waluigi voices to yourself.
I thought you were going to go with keep your Waluigi in your pants.
No, you kidding? That's see where your mind goes, James. Come on.
Into my pants. Yes. We've been talking about Mario for a long time.
It's worth it, man. It really is.
It's a little bit disoriented. Like I expected this. I was trying to run, or I had a plan to run the segment, fairly straight through and go through it. But I think it's appropriate that this conversation kind of lilts from thing to thing because the game feels like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're in a snow stage and one of the flowers goes, "Do you ever wonder where snow comes from?"
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to stop and turn around and go, "No, idiot, it comes from the sky." What do you mean, where does it come from?
Yeah, but then again, he is a flower, so it's like, okay, I don't really know what their educational system is like.
All he does is look at the sky.
Yeah.
Snow is falling, and he's like, where does it come from? You're watching it come from there.
But I guess to counter-argue myself then, how did that flower learn English?
He's talking.
Yeah, he's talking. in fluent English. So
he just hit you with the equivalent of I take out a box of Wheaties and start pouring you breakfast, and you look at your bowl as you watch and go, "What's your brain?"
yeah,
It's like the box is still in front of your face. Try and shut it. Try to get the last bit of Wheaties out. Oh man, dumbass flowers, stupid. I only want smart flowers. Smart flowers only in my games. Boss battles. We haven't talked about that. The boss battles are largely against Bowser Jr. and they're still the hit him 3 times and he dies, except it's 4 times now. This time for reasons. And they're Wonder Flower influenced or Wonder Seed influenced, so he gains powers as the Wonder Seed battle goes on, which is kind of neat. Yeah, but they're not that special. The final boss fight is really easy. I didn't get hit.
I feel like that's kind of the trend now.
It's really easy.
Yeah. Or just the boss battles being kind of non-events. I feel like that's just a general trend in Mario games.
I thought it was like the opening round, and then it was like, oh, the credits are playing. I see.
I mean, I don't know. Like Super Mario Brothers U, if I remember correctly, it's hard to remember exactly which battle came from which, but like the I don't know. Like usually they've been set pieces, right, in the 3D games and the 2D games. Super Mario 3D World, had you chasing kind of a cat Bowser and, climbing up that tower and, like the camera just kind of being almost side-scrolling, right? But you're going around the tower, it's following you, and like you're dodging Bowser's fire and as it destroys the platforms that you're standing on. So yeah, basically a big set piece. I remember dying a bunch. Like it was not I didn't get hit type of battle. And Super Mario Brothers U, like it was the same kind of deal. I think that Bowser got huge and just shot fire and from the right side of the screen as you're trying to platform your way to him, basically. So, yeah, I don't know. So, was it like that? Like, was it again kind of more set piece than just a straight?
It was an arena fight with essentially platforming combat, and it was basically like he has weak spots. You can hit them. Go hit them, and sometimes they're available to hit. Sometimes they aren't. So go do it. And it wasn't super difficult to hit those spots. They're pretty big. And yeah, I just kind of did it. Like I said, he didn't hit me. It wasn't like I did it without getting killed. He never touched me. It was very easy. But yeah, it did feel a little bit anticlimactic. But still, the boss battles are again, it's keep with the theme. They're very short. Everything is short. This is a game for people who have limited ability to focus.
Mm-hmm.
Because you do something and then bang, 30 seconds later, you're doing something completely different. Let's go! Mario's a Jello pile now. It's like, what the fuck is happening? Why is Mario a Goomba? How did Mario become a Goomba? I didn't ask for this.
Yeah, it does have a pretty brisk pace.
Oh my god, I'm surfing on an entire train worth of rhinos.
Yep.
That's odd.
Yep.
Yeah, it just goes. Like it is a little bit Sonic-y in that respect because it just goes. Like what Sonic claims to be rather than what Sonic often is. Like there is a momentum to this game beyond Mario's momentum. There's a sort of spiritual momentum to the gameplay where it's like it just starts going and it's just a roller coaster. It just keeps rolling.
Yeah, but that makes it very playable. Very playable game.
Oh, yeah, it makes it very. It's I can't remember what game it was we made this observation on the first time, but basically if there's no like hard breaks, it's very easy to just one more.
Yeah.
Well, just one more.
Yeah, it doesn't really give you any obstacles to replayability.
No. And it doesn't really like skill check you either. Like, are you still good?
Yeah.
Because like, if you run into something that gives too much resistance, it gives you options to go do something else.
Yeah. Or
so you just go do something else.
Tailor the experience to something that's more palatable.
Right. And you can come back later and it might be fine.
Yeah.
And that's I didn't because I'm stubborn and stupid. I banged my head on the wall until I got through the wall every time.
But you have a goal that you're trying to achieve with a game, right? Like you're trying to 100% it. So you know that there's certain pains in the ass that come with that territory.
I definitely did not plan to 100% that game when I bought it. And in fact, as recently as the day I got all of the Wonder Seeds, I planned to stop.
Yeah.
And then I heard what I would get for getting all of the stuff, and I'm like, well, I want that. I want that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go get that thing. And I'm having fun doing it. Not as much fun, obviously, as I did when I went through the game the first time. But I'm having fun with it. And so I very casually, I have something streaming on Twitch or whatever, or on something I don't have to really pay much attention to. It's not like a Netflix video or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's something Twitch where it's like, it only really exists for this moment, and then it goes away.
Yeah. This game is very easy to play with it's very easy to play with something else in the background, it's
a great 2-screen game.
Yeah, it is great.
I do like when one of the ghosts is in pause, you just get a big pause over their head in the Super Nintendo font.
Yeah,
it's a nice touch.
Yeah,
completely unnecessary. Again, it's another one of those things where you're like, that wasn't necessary, but I'm glad you did it. It would have been fine to just have that character standing there. You'd have figured out they were paused eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't affect you.
Or you would
being paused has no impact on you.
You would have just assumed that, it's just shitty Nintendo Online and they're just frozen.
Yeah. Because them being paused has no impact on you at all. There's no timer.
Yep.
And it's not like you're participating in the stage with them. You're seeing another version of the multiverse right now. It's fine. Yeah. I'm kind of running out of things to say where I'm not just rambling. This is a really fun game, and I'm glad it came out. I'm glad I got to play it. It exceeded my expectations, which were deliberately modest.
I'm just surprised that I'm the pro Mario guy and Guillaume hates this game. So
yeah,
it's just this is a strange world we're living in, but here we are.
I don't know. I'm just cranky.
Well, yeah.
Maybe wait for next week for a better Guillaume.
Yep. He'll come for a better. You're perfect in our eyes, Guillaume.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we're on the right path here.
If you do know a better Guillaume, please let us know.
Yeah, sure. We're willing to entertain a better Guillaume. We'll put it that way. We like what we have, but we're willing to trade up if necessary.
Yeah, I would let y'all know if there was a better James. I would bring him and go, this is your problem now, better James.
Lord knows I would advocate for it.
I learned the existence of a Guillaume Veillette who was on a fireman calendar.
Oh,
so that's probably a better Guillaume.
All right,
fights fires and provokes them.
I don't know. It depends.
I mean,
there's pros and cons. I'm saying it just wouldn't be a straight up.
What month is he? Just curious.
I don't remember. I just I've received a phone call that was meant for him at some point on my voicemail.
I would have absolutely fucked with that person.
How did you know that? How did you find out that he was in a calendar? Was the phone call referencing this?
Is this the Guillaume who was in the fireman's calendar?
That's a pretty pointed request from a phone call.
Yeah, that's actually, it was kind of, I don't want to make fun too much of that person. Seemed very confused and, anyway, we don't have to get into that story, but I learned of the existence of a fireman calendar, Guillaume Veillette, because someone got my phone number somewhere and hoped that was me.
I found him.
That is
I found
great.
Him. I don't know, I might get into the creepy space.
Yeah.
I found him. And they found Mr. March. Well, Mario.
Anyways,
I'm gonna go hide from myself because I think I just made myself upset. Do y'all want to say anything else about Mario?
No, I'm good. I'm kind of thrown, to be honest. But hey, Hey,
I probably need to wait next week before I say more, because at this point, I'm still down in the game for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So.
It's at this point Greg is listening to the show right now because he does listen when he's not on it, unlike some other people, i.e. both of you.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Both of you.
Well, I'm sure many times, he'll listen to it and be like, fuck. That's Greg.
Sure, when we got into the Mr. Mario calendar,
fuck me.
It's getting worse as the years go on. It's
people just say. I feel like I've built up a lot of cachet with people. They're like, I drop a couple of Joannas out there, and people are fine with it.
Halfway to a Chicago accent.
People are fine with it. It's perfectly fine.
Jesus, John's gonna get his English accent to the point where it sounds like he's from Minnesota. It's like, John, what the fuck are you doing?
It's like
this isn't even close.
Whatever. This is clearly Warwickshire. Come on.
Oh.
Warwickshire. Caveat: Warwickshire may or may not exist.
Warwickshire, North Dakota. Yes,
I don't even
nailed
know.
Jesus Christ. All right, Greg, if you worked in the gas industry, yes. All right, so we're going to take a break here. When we come back, I don't know, listener mail probably. We'll find out. You'll find out with us. It might be pretty short. I don't know. I haven't got a plan. This is a relaxed episode of Radio Free Nintendo. So, see you in a minute. Enjoy. I don't know what's it give them about 26 seconds of music.
Sure.
Yeah,
probably
enjoy that.
Less.
Probably about 7 seconds. We're back. Before we get to listener mail, we're just gonna do one this week because we're all a little bit worn out this week, and Mario stuff we talked about a lot, and Greg's out. There's a couple emails we want to do, but Greg's not here. We want to do them with him. So we're just going to do one this week. But I wanted to first talk about the Retroactive. Let me talk to you about the Retroactive. Have I talked to you about the Retroactive? You might not have heard it because the whole nonsense with the feed. But Retroactive. We want to do one before the holidays. We want to record it before the holidays. We're going to release it probably during the holidays so we can get a week off, but you guys still get a new episode. So what are we looking for? I'm looking for you to recommend us a game that is, and you can recommend more than one game. You can recommend a few. Don't recommend me like 30. Don't send me like 30 games. If you've got like 3, that's cool. 30, get the fuck out. Whittle that list down. Come back later. Come back with 3. Come back with 5. That's fine. Like, think about it. Reasonable.
I mean, come back and be serious is what we're saying.
Yeah. If you come at me with 140 options, you're not being serious.
I mean, I get it. I get it. Our audience has a bunch of jokers. Ha ha. Look at the stupid games we can recommend people. But come on, we're just asking you to be serious for just one time in our lives.
Me with Night Trap. I'm going to block your inbox. Like, it's it.
I'm going to say, welcome, brother.
Yeah, I would like. That would probably be the only context in which I would actually sit down and play Night Trap.
Encourage
it's
them.
True. I have never played Night Trap.
I
would describe myself as Night Trap curious.
We haven't received that many. We haven't received that many suggestions yet, but
look,
I know. But
it's
like
Dana Plato in her prime.
To me, like the one the in the first place right now would be Nintendo World Report's Donald Terrio suggesting the 7th guess. I'm extremely curious.
So the premise here for this one is we want your classic games that are available on the eShop, and it ties into the email we didn't pick. I should have thought about that before I had this conversation. Damn. But these are games that have been made available on the Switch, either as part of a Nintendo online service or as an eShop release or as a collection, but we kind of want you to be reasonable. If it's in a collection that's like $20, that's pushing it. If it's 15, okay, sure, yeah, we can deal with that. 20, maybe. It depends on the collection. If it's in a collection that's $60, no, this goes back to the be reasonable standard. Be serious. I'm not going to give somebody $60 so I can play motherfucking Night Trap or some bullshit. It doesn't have to have been from a Nintendo system. It just has to be on the Switch now, and it needs to be the actual game itself, not like a remake. Like this is what we're after. We're after some original game. What does classic game mean? I don't know. And legitimately, I don't know. Like it's older than the Switch. Figure it out from that. That's your metric. Figure it out from older than the Switch, but older than the Wii U. Don't give us Wii U ports. That's not what we're talking about here. I'm talking about stuff that's older. Many of them are in collections. There's a ton of those on the Switch. You could think of something. So don't just send me a game name either. That's a fucked up thing to do. Tell us how to get it. So how is it available on the Switch? Because if it's just one game in a random IREM collection, like I ain't gonna find that.
Published by Strictly Limited.
Yeah,
chances are we're not going to be able to get it.
Right,
it's Strictly Limited.
It's not that strict.
No.
You need to tell us where it is, and then explain to us why this is the game, why this should be the game. So we're giving you a little bit of a writing prompt here. You send us at least a sentence or two about why this should be the game. What's special about it? What's interesting? What's going to make for a good conversation? Notice I didn't necessarily say what's good about it, because some of the best retroactives are for janked up games. But like, explain why this game is worth our time, and not just our time. It's worth the time of our audience, which must be very valuable because they're listening to this fine show. But is worth the time and effort of the audience to consume that episode and to play along, because that's the goal. We want you to play along. So send your recommendations of classic game, where I'm defining classic is, quote, I don't know, old, on the Switch. That is not part of like a big dollar collection, but can be part of a smaller dollar collection or part of an online service or whatever. Available. A game that's available in its original form, not a remake. Remastered, okay, we can probably deal with that. But like a full remake, no, it doesn't count. 2, rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. Send us the name of the game, how you can get it on the service so it's easy to find, and why you think this should be the game. What's going to make this an interesting topic for a retroactive? That's important. So send that to us soon, because we want to try to do this one relatively short order, and we need at least 3 weeks from when we announce the game to when we record it. So get those in as soon as you possibly can. Be greatly appreciated. What you can also send to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com are your questions, your comments, or your prompts for us to talk about at extended periods of time. I can't even remember what dumb bullshit we talked about today, but I'm sure there's some of it. You could ask follow-up questions to that. It's available to you right now. That's Nintendo. rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. So, emails. John, I would like you to read our email today.
Certainly.
I pasted it in the chat, didn't I?
You did.
Okay, good.
Hey, chicken fuckers, and Guy, John, and Greg.
God fucking damn it.
For your request, here is a question about game design. What are some good examples of well-done stories in Nintendo games? Almost to a fault, Nintendo games get criticized that their stories, plots, aren't as well fleshed out or cinematic as other games. Story seems to often be the weak link, often an afterthought. But what Nintendo games do stories well, in your not-so-humble opinions? I can think of several, but I'd love to hear you expound on this subject for a bit.
Devil's Third. The extended drum solo moved my soul. No, I have a bunch of options. I'll let y'all go first. I don't want to take y'all's.
Go ahead, Guillaume.
Oh, really? Well, for me, I tend to not look for plot in most video games, because not only do they not seem to be designed to deliver plot very well, but it doesn't seem like most games are really interested in plot. And so, like, except for maybe like short games, short indie games that are about actually telling, a little story. I'm thinking of a bunch that I can't remember the titles of right now.
But Short Hike.
Yeah, Short Hike, but I'm thinking more of I can't remember the name of that one, but kind of a visual novel type game where it's you were driving through to basically to see your family. You're driving through like the Midwest and there's a tornado heading your way, and then the game kind of ends with you dying in a tornado. Like, it's, like that's kind of the story there. Sorry, I guess I spoiled it, but you don't know what game I'm talking about anyway, so who cares? So like those games, yeah, they're focused on plot. Nintendo doesn't make those games, and I feel like most longer games smartly focus on something else than plot. They focus on lore, or they focus on characters. And I guess the recent Zelda games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, are more about that. Because partly because they're open world, right? Like, so the way that they deliver these bits of lore doesn't really impact all that much. Like, even if you get them in not in the right order, you don't really suffer from it. Like you still get the idea eventually, right? Right. And when, like, the way that it does try to deliver plot, and it also does it out of order, and there it actually does suffer. So yeah, so that's a bad example of a well done story in a game, in my opinion.
I like the story in. I think if you talk about Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, there's an interesting, like, weird parallel here of Tears of the Kingdom tries to have a lot more story, because you get a lot of the, like, what was Zelda up to shit.
Yeah.
Until you get the twist, which is very funny. I still think that twist is extremely hilarious, not for reasons Nintendo intended. Because it's just, it's like the moment where it happens, and it's like, that's so stupid. But Breath of the Wild, which tried to be much story lighter than Tears of the Kingdom, like, you did get those flashbacks, but they're very limited in scope compared to the Tears of the Kingdom ones, which are pretty overwrought. I think it did a lot more with less in Breath of the Wild. I think the environmental storytelling of what the fuck happened after Link got his ass handed to him. In the Calamity. Like, I think the world tells a really good story of the Calamity.
Yeah, but is it... that's what I would file under lore, though,
If you actually follow through the world, you can actually trace back pretty much everything that happened. Like, they give you enough context to, like, oh, this was the battle where Link went down ultimately. And if you look around at the wreckage, you can tell that, okay, he actually did some fucking damage before he went down. Like, he didn't just get his ass handed to him immediately. And the characters do give you more info. Like, it's that game in particular, its plot is lore. Does that make sense? Because so much of the story happened while Link was unconscious. So, like, the lore is the plot. The stuff that happened when he was awake, he doesn't remember it.
Right.
So he's basically consuming it the same way. In Tears of the Kingdom, that trick doesn't work because he knows everything that happened, except for the stuff that happened in the far-flung past, which he doesn't really have any context to know it or any reason to know it, because that is lore. That's literally lore of their kingdom. Like, it's stuff that didn't happen anymore, and yet they can all read the text, which I think is very funny. But I think they tried to do more in that game, and that's why I think Breath of the Wild probably does a good job with storytelling in the way that it wants to tell its story. Like, there's a certain amount of what's good storytelling is meeting the medium at its where it wants to be met. Like, that game wanted to have a very, I would say, open air story, to use their own terminology, where it's like, it's very lightweight, it's very broad, it's very like, you can kind of see through the story to see what's directly in front of your face and totally miss it. But it is there, and it is coherent, and it does explain why things are the way they are and why we got to where we're at, and it gives some context, and it sets up the world well enough. Whereas Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdoms, just feels very loud. And also, we have to deal with the fact that Zelda's ancestors were sheep fuckers. If you're going to call me a chicken fucker, like, literally, Go look at the head of the Zonai. They're sheep heads. Zelda's ancestors fucked sheep. Like they just did. They just did. I'm sorry. Like it's like if you are a descendant of these people, then your ancestors must have had sex with them. That is how descendants work, right? Well, fucking explain this then, because this is not good. I don't like this. This is not good. So yeah, that's that. Like that, the Tears of the Kingdom actually doesn't make sense. And there was an interview recently where somebody asked some of the team that worked on that game, where did all of the tech from Breath of the Wild go? And their response was, well, it just disappeared when Calamity Ganon was defeated because it didn't need to be here anymore. Like the Tower knew, my work is done here, and returned back to its home planet. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? They made the Sheikah technology. The Sheikah, who are still around. You're saying all their tech just pieced the fuck out? Come on, that's stupid. Because it is stupid. And considering how environmental storytelling mattered so much in Breath of the Wild, it really undercut it by just having all this shit go away and nobody fucking talking about the literal goddamn end of the world they all just witnessed 2 years prior. It's dumb. It's dumb. And not in a good dumb. It's a dumb. Sorry, I didn't mean to take over yours, Guillaume.
No, well, that was basically my main point. Like, that longer games, which, that Nintendo's games fall in the range of, like they don't really tend to focus that much on the story. They might focus more on jokes or on building a world or, the lore and
the characters.
The characters, but yeah, Paper Mario, the Origami King, we've talked about it not that long ago, but like to me, like what made that game was its writing, not because I thought that the plot was genius, but because every toad had something really, really funny to say. And that's not easy to do, and Nintendo really did it well. And but it's got nothing to do with the plot. So I'm kind of struggling, to be honest. Like, I feel like the best examples I could think of are games I actually haven't played, Like, I heard about, like, I'm looking at lists right now. I saw, like...
Yeah, I would think of maybe something like, I mean, for me, like something like Metroid Prime, where it's not too heavy-handed, It's an action game, so they don't overload on the plot. You kind of dig deeper in the lore by scanning stuff if you want. But the story is mostly in cutscenes, and, they don't really... It's not too verbose. I mean, it's very easy to say, some RPG that was published by Nintendo has a great story. But, I mean... It's kind of part and parcel to that genre. It doesn't mean I necessarily like the story or enjoy all of the, just the constant story being thrown at you that most RPGs do. So,
it can also just mean that it's well delivered, even if you don't necessarily like it. Like they put the effort in. That characters have understandable. Like here's something that I think a lot of video games actually don't do a great job of. Character has an understandable motivation. And this is a cross-cutting problem. Sometimes the bad guy doesn't have a motivation. He's just evil.
Yeah.
And video games aren't exclusive to that. There's lots of like movies where the bad guy does this thing because they're bad. And you're like, what's his personal gain for this? Well, he's evil. Well, why is he evil? Because he just is. Well, no, that's not how it works.
Isn't it though? I kind of feel like we have plenty of real life examples of people who are just evil.
Well, no. See, there's difference between like, and this is going to get really macabre. Like, I hurt a bunch of people because I'm mean, versus I tried to engineer the end of the world because I'm mean. It's like there's the amount of preparation one of those things requires is so extreme that your motivation would have to be inordinarily deep-seated. Like, it's not just a matter of, like, I am evil and therefore I do bad thing. It's, I am motivated and I have something pushing me and there is a thing that keeps me going.
I have something that justifies my lust for genocide.
And not just I'm going to do it, but I'm going to execute a convoluted and complicated plan to get there that I have to wake up every day and make this my only driving force. Like it's not just the the evil. It's not just the doing bad. It's the sacrifice that came with it. The absolute commitment to the bit. And I can actually give an example of this that works okay. And people are going to get mad. Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Our main antagonist in this game, the person who caused there's two causes of all of the problems. There is the originator of the world, whose entire motivation is hubris, and it makes sense in the context that got him there. And then once he's there, it's guilt because he fucked up everything. And he basically hates what he's become. He hates what the world is. He hates what he's done. And so his unwillingness to interfere in what is apocalyptic makes total sense because he doesn't care anymore. He's just hit this place where it's just beyond him. And then our more grounded antagonist, the fucking Pope, he's a nihilist. Because he basically grew up as a child of genocide. And he's not just a nihilist in that I'm going to get all those people who did this. Like he legitimately wants to see the world end because he's convinced that that's the only way that this shit will stop. He doesn't believe the world deserves to continue. And so he's built his entire personality around it. And in that respect, it actually worked. Because they spent a lot of time establishing why he's as fucked up as he is and how fucked up he really is. And, he shows, and this goes back to the character thing, he shows sociopathic tendencies. He can be extremely charming. He can be extremely he can come off however he wants to come off. If he wants you to think that he's a good and peace-enjoying religious cleric, which nominally he is, and a good head of state, which nominally he is, he has the social skills and the absolute commitment and manipulative practices to make that happen. And so it works in that context. His 100+ year long con to get to this point to fuck the world up that saw him climb a literal unclimbable tree so that he could wish for the end of the world. It makes sense in his context exclusively. Whereas, why does Ganon want to keep destroying the world? Well, he wants power. Then why does he fuck the world up every time he gets it? Ganon wanted to rule in Ocarina of Time, right? Why did he turn Hyrule Castletown into a fucking zombie hellscape? Why does he want to rule a zombie hellscape? He wants to rule, okay. Wouldn't he want to rule a society that doesn't suck? No explanation proffered. And to me, that doesn't explain the story. Yeah, there's beats there. Ganon got the piece of the Triforce because he wanted the power that came with it, and young Zelda did the thing that young Zelda tends to do in these games of I've got an idea, let's do this thing, and then it actually turns out to be a terrible idea. But motivation matters. Characters that you can connect to matter. Why does let's go back to Xenoblade 2? Why does Rex get up in the morning every day to go fight the end of the world? Because he's a horny 13-year-old teenager who has a best friend with the large breasts. You know what? If you've been around a 13-year-old boy, that's actually pretty believable. Because their brains are fucking insane. Hormones have completely consumed them. It's yeah, no, you know what? No, he's an idiot. That makes sense. Yeah, no, totally, actually makes sense.
Yeah, but I just had, a big issue with that game's world where, the game raised some themes and some issues that just it was not interested in trying to tackle. Yeah, so it was very anime, it was well, wouldn't this idea be cool? And then they don't really go anywhere with it.
The big one there about the fact that the Blades dread their driver dying because they lose their memory and it's traumatic to them. Now, even though they won't remember the trauma, they know it's going to be traumatic. The fear of losing it is traumatic to them, not the actual loss itself. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Because they don't remember the loss, but knowing that it's going to happen in the moment is traumatic. They do play with it more in the prequel Golden Country in a way that's like, boy, if the main plot dealt with this,
Right.
it would have been very useful. Because again, the other sociopathic character, it explains why he isn't losing his memories and why that's fucking with him. Because it turns out that losing the memories was actually there for their own benefit in a weird way. Because holding on to everyone you know dying over and over and over again is gonna fuck you up real bad. So there's like, it actually does get into that, but then it's like, but that wasn't part of the main plot. It's like I appreciate that they thought through why all the characters do what they do. Even fucking losers like Zeke have reasons for why they're there, and they're realistic to a certain degree. Like, what would the prince of a dying kingdom, who's also maybe a little bit stupid, what would his relationship be with the king who knows the kingdom is dying but insists that he basically pretend like it's not, versus the kid who doesn't want to be king of a place that's going to die maybe in his lifetime and doesn't really want to be there because there's no leaving once it goes. Like there's a certain amount of friction that works. Like that's the part of storytelling that I think matters, and Nintendo doesn't give a fuck about. Like, we're talking about a game from their second parties. Like, Link doesn't need motivation to do what he does. He wakes up and does it. I think Breath of the Wild is the first time where they hinted at he doesn't actually have the motivation. Zelda in her diary writes that line about, like, he finally snaps at her because she's being an absolute asshole to him. Because he's talented and she's jealous. And he basically says, like, she describes their interaction as, he basically tells her, like, basically I've been stared at my whole life because people expect me to do things and it sucks and I hate it. That's why I don't talk, because everything I say gets parsed. Like, that's the closest we ever had to a motivation for Link. He does it because he's been told he has to. Generally speaking, like, Link just gets up and does shit. Wind Waker gave Link a motivation in that Errol got kidnapped. But usually that's what it is. Somebody he knows got hurt, and he's like, well, I guess I could do this. Like, what made Link think, yeah, no, I'm the right guy for this? There's literally a sword master who lives next door. Like, why didn't you go over to that guy and go, like, hey, can you take care of this? This is a major issue. But, it's just not what they're interested in. So, to a certain degree, if we're talking about Nintendo first party, I guess we're kind of grading on a scale.
Yeah.
On a curve. Some of the Fire Emblem games do okay, but again, that's a second party title.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you would look at stuff like Eternal Darkness, let's say, again, second party. It's right. I mean, the reason why Nintendo doesn't do those games, so that's why it's like a lot of these games are going to come from second parties.
I mean, like, even Bea, which very much tries to have a story, it's fucking nonsense.
Yeah.
But again, they didn't make that. Like, if you go through the stuff that they make, I'm struggling to think of something besides Zelda that really attempts it.
Yeah. Most things don't. Like, I mean, mostly anything in the Mario series period is usually very lighthearted.
It's scenario more than it is story.
Yep.
We're in this flower kingdom. Why didn't we know about this flower kingdom before? Stop asking questions.
Yeah.
That's a good example. I had one and I just lost it. Shit. I mean, Pikmin 4 has a story, but it's kind of stupid.
Yeah, Pikmin is weird, and 4 is probably not the one that comes to mind as having impressed me with its writing, but 2 and, 1 to a certain extent were more... It was not so much their story as the... Again, like the picture they painted of Olimar's world and situation, stuck in a bad job with a bad boss who was willing to unload his debt onto him, like missing his family, but not being able to because he's got an idiot coworker and, like a ridiculous boss. And it was kind of, like a little bit biting, like the game seemed to have something to say about, being on the workforce, being, having to work for a bad job to earn a living.
To work for the man.
Yeah. So, yeah, like very entertaining, but ultimately the plot was not what made that game or that game's writing. Yeah.
And I think that's just what it comes down to, is that Nintendo's very interested mechanically in their games and maybe less interested as a storytelling medium. It's just not where their heart's at. The Famicom Detective Clubs, that was the games I was thinking of. These are ancient games at this point. But they do tell a story. Now, the twist of the first game, I'm defining first in the chronological order they came out, not the chronological order of their story. The first game takes place before or after the second game. There, that's how I'll word it. The first game does a very good job setting up that world. Doesn't explain why the detective just sends a bunch of high school kids to do his job for him. Oh, no, I mean, I don't need that part explained. It's easier for him. But it's got a really dumb twist, which I think really undercuts that story. The second one is interesting, but it doesn't have the existing dynamic between our hero and his female coworker. Whereas they're more established as friends in the first game, which happened second, and so they've got more banter, and their banter works really well. Whereas in the second game, which is chronologically the first, she's the client, so they don't have as much banter. They don't know each other as well. So that diminishes that one a little bit. Their banter in the first game is really good. But yeah, I mean that's a 30-year-old direct to Famicom disk system visual novel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not exactly talking about modern Nintendo here. So I'm not sure what the most modern example of Nintendo telling a meaningful story is. If the answer might be never.
Yeah,
which is fine.
It's tough to find. I mean, even looking through a list of their franchises, a lot of these they're very very light.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
It's just something you have to accept when we're trying to answer this question.
And I guess you could make a case for something like Sin and Punishment, but it's very story light.
Again, and then second party as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem to be there. Like,
yeah, or like like Resident Evil 4 or something like that, right? But again,
not theirs.
Yeah, not theirs.
Mario Kart doesn't have a big plot. I regret to say, Mario Kart would be better. I mean, F-Zero has a story mode. It's fucking garbage.
That's funny. Mario Kart, like they literally never give you a reason why this is happening, right? These races are just happening. I feel like Smash Brothers, there's the whole figurine thing. Like, it's not the actual characters. There's more of an attempt to explain what's going on there than there's ever been in Mario Kart. Like, the explanation is Mario and his friends and enemies all ride in carts.
They found some carts, and now they're going to race them around. And they've terraformed the world to look like a racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Star Fox. At least they established characters.
And there is marginally a plot, but again, we don't know why Andros is doing what he does.
Yeah, exactly.
He wants power, I guess. I like that they keep calling him Dr. Andros. They're like, was he a giant head when he got his PhD? Was his dissertation a large floating head in a room?
Yeah, he went to Zardoz University.
Yeah, so I was wondering. It's like, what's up with this? Is this Zardoz? Is this a Zardoz reference? Because he didn't originally have just a floating head, I would assume. Like, what is he? Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one a lot. I don't got anything first party.
Yeah, no, like Splatoon, the series has interesting world. Again, I would call it more lore. You're not, but I haven't really played 2 and 3 all that much. I know that like the single player has a campaign. There's a story, but I haven't heard much about it.
It's decent as a story. It's not. Or excuse me, 2. 2's is decent as a story. It's not, killing it, but it is there. But I mean, that's the match. Like, that's what we're trying to find with Nintendo's first party stuff. Yeah, it's there, which is not a great starting point for negotiations on what Nintendo games have good story. So, I mean, if you're willing to go third party, I think the Xenoblade stuff is good. I think Xenoblade X's story, once you understand what it's trying to do and what it was doing with the storytelling medium of like making you do side quests to establish the state of Mira. It's interesting because they let you build your own story out of the puzzle pieces they gave you, which is pretty cool. Even though it does mean that like the scripted story sequences are necessarily lighter because they know less about what your character is up to than at any point in the series. I think, like I said, that Fire Emblem's internal. I actually think that Mario Wonder did a good job just because it gets out of your way. Like there's very little of it present, and that's fine. I think it just really depends game to game. I don't know. Do you got any others, John? You wanna?
No, not really. Nothing first party that really comes to mind unless it's something that Nintendo is publishing but not developing. Nintendo developed games tend to be very story light, obviously.
Yeah, it's just not their interest.
Yeah, I mean anything that just other stuff that I would point to maybe I don't know. Yeah, I mean the Xenoblade games are probably the most story heavy games that they make. And again, they don't make them, right? So
the company they own makes them, but they're not made inside NCL itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm out. I can't think of anything.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Like just like HAL games or Game Freak games.
Yeah.
I can't praise Nintendo themselves for Pocket Card Jockey's gripping storyline.
Yeah, Pocket Card Jockey did come to mind, but again, that's just kind of one of those lighthearted kind of jokey kind of stories too, just like some of the Mario RPG type of things.
Yeah.
Cool. And they didn't make those either. Those were intelligence systems, weren't they?
Mm-hmm. Game Freak.
Game Freak.
Yeah.
And I'm into Mario RPG.
Mario RPG, Square Enix. Well, depending on which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Alpha Dream, Square Enix, etc.
I thought you were just talking the Mario RPGs and not specifically Super Mario RPG. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's kind of an answer to the question.
No.
Devil's Third.
Yeah, the answer is no.
Is the answer. Devil's Third is the answer.
It's always the answer.
C4 getting killed for dramatic effect. Also naming a character C4. So I knew people who told stories with subtext. They were all cowards, I believe, is to paraphrase the quote. But again, emails, rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. Send them. Don't be a coward. Don't use subtext. Just write your email. And I want to be clear. I was talking about a game in which you could have sex with a chicken. I am not a chicken fucker. So thank you back, sir. On that, it is time for us to wrap up this episode. Greg, who is not here today, in case you're just now realizing that, has been gracious enough to do his music selection duties in spite of that fact, and sent us a recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
That's the song that he sent us is the theme of Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid 2 on the Metal Gear Solid. Oh, excuse me. I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna start over. The song that he sent us was the theme of Solid Snake from Metal Gear 2: Solid Snake from the MSX2, which is part of the now recently released Metal Gear collection. I'm trying to remember which one this was in. But there's like 85 Metal Gear things on the eShop now that you can go pick from.
Yeah, well, the one that just came out was the Metal Gear Master Collection.
Master Collection Volume 1.
Yeah. I did pick it up. Pick it up on PS5. And those games are fucking nonsense, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, they sure are.
Yeah, and those old MSX Metal Gear games are really, really difficult and very obtuse, and
extremely.
And they don't give you.
They revel in being weird.
Yeah, they don't give you key information either. Like, to advance the story and stuff like that, I was like reaching for FAQs within about 10 minutes of playing the first Metal Gear. So,
I mean, define key information.
Key information being like you walk into a room and you start dying because you need a gas mask, and Big Boss radios you and says, "Yeah, you need a gas mask, and Schneider from the Resistance can give it to you." And there's absolutely nothing told to you on how to contact Schneider or how you get to Schneider or where Schneider is. And it turns out I looked it up, and Schneider actually, I think, should contact you if you go into kind of a random room. But the FAQ file that I was looking at says that nobody really knew exactly when that happened. So they just said, just use this frequency.
Nice.
So they're like, yeah, you have to call him right away. They said ideally what you have to do is you have to call him right after Big Boss calls you and tells you to get the gas mask. The thing is, nobody tells you what his frequency is.
Perfect. Love it.
It's good times.
Yeah. Well, on that note, it's time to end the show. Bye, buddy.
Bye.
Later.